Doesn't get much sweeter than this. The Diamondback HD Series truck topper can hold over 2,000 pounds up on the top here, secure, watertight, and it looks freaking really nice. This is the third one of these I've had, only because I get different trucks. I drive like crazy and literally wear the trucks out. We're about to watch us put it on. I went to my friend Steve's auto body shop. Not that you're not capable of doing it in your own driveway or garage. We went there because we had nice lighting and could film it. You're gonna see how easy it is to install. You're gonna see some footage I shot while driving in a torrential downpour at highway speeds. If you like this top or you have questions, put it in the comment section. If you own one of Diamondback's tops and you've had success with them, put that in the comments. Tell us about it. If you've had an issue, put that in the comments, because we want people to see with transparency about the products that we share with you. Made in America, made with pride. I love them. Keeps my stuff dry. Here we go. Aluminum, very simple toolbox. These go forward towards the front of the truck, and it just drops in here, and then when the latches go out, this is what it looks like when it shows up in the package. So if you're afraid of getting a big box that you can't handle, it's broken into three main components: the front and the back, and of course the middle section with the hinges. And then if you opt to get one of the toolboxes, that comes in a separate box. And this thing, literally, I could pick it up with one hand. Beautifully welded aluminum. See those lovely welds up there? And then of course we get a parts kit. Start here. What's in the box? Parts, installation guide, owner's manual, and warranty. So let's open that up. I can get that blade in there. There we go. Oh, look at that. So I've got the owner's kit. Lovely. We've got our rams for keeping it up. The clamps for locking her down. We've got some weather stripping, because not every vehicle's the same. Mine's got a bed liner in it. The plastic rails that come on different trucks, or lack thereof, are going to change the way that these components interact with the truck. So they give you some extra weather stripping so that you can keep it weather tight, and it works really good. This is the third one of these we've had on different trucks, and none of them have been leakers if I followed the directions. So we are suggesting you follow the directions. Hot plastic. Like a pro. Look. So you may or may not have to trim your bed liner. We do, and that's okay. This will all be covered by the toolbox. And it pays to have a friend that owns an auto body shop with all the tools on hand, although you don't need anything fancy. It's just nice when you've got a friend that's got what you need. You could, if you had to, just start scoring that with a utility knife as well. It'd take a while. And of course, you want to be careful that you don't go through and cut through the paint. This is an aluminum bed in the Ford, but if you got a steel bed, you're going to make a spot for rust. come up so I can, there we go. Look at that. Perfect. And it can't go back any further anyway because of that. So they recommend driving a screw through this. I've never done it because I didn't want the hole through the bed rail.
Well, doesn't that clamp this?
No, nothing clamps here. Although we could also probably run a small screw just into the, straight through here into the bed liner as well. They get, I think it's a couple little machine screws or a couple like self tappers they give us.
Is that even going to help?
Just to keep it from bouncing around at all.
But it's tight, Mickey. I don't know if
What are you thinking?
is it really going to bounce around? Wait a minute.
Yep. That's why I'm sitting on it. What?
Is that going to go down when you put the top on it?
Down any more than this?
Yeah, I mean, doesn't that?
No, that's how it's got to sit. They make it so it sits inside of it.
Yeah, just put that in.
Yeah, that'll work perfect. Thanks, bro.
Please.
Oh, so we drilled a couple holes through the through the box and just into the bed rail. Now, if you're super thoughtful, you may want to use a rivet. The manufacturer recommends that. I got no problem putting a screw through there. It is aluminum. My truck bed is aluminum as well, so there might be a thought about different metals being connected together. You can get some electrolysis if you got a steel bed, the aluminum box here. So you may not want to do this, but I've had these before, and I like just one light screw so that when there's a load in here, it doesn't bounce around at all. Not for any other reason than it can affect the latch mechanism if depending on where the latch interacts inside of the space that's left here. We'll show you. All right, so now we're going to put all three pieces on, and they are marked. This one has a sticker telling us that this one's closest to the cab. The center, if you have this exact style, is pretty easy to see because it's the center, and then the rear. And there is more than one style of this, so just look at the sticker so you make sure you got them right. So now the center, and the same with this. So then on this one, tailgate, right? So this, so when it's laid down, that'll face the tailgate. So we can, you have to pull that sticker, and then we can connect these together. You need a blade? You got one? I'll get mine. So once you get all three pieces on, as you'll see, we can adjust front to back, etc. To get everything lined up and dialed in. It'll be nice. I've got to slide mine on, and then yours will hook on. You see that? You've got the C, and I've got the. So let me go to you first. Back. There we go. Nice. And then we'll grab the back side. Yes.
You want to show the underside?
What's that? So same thing. I'll go first, and then you. Cool. That would have been a fitting close-up. Key hanging on there. Just to show you what we were doing, hooking these hinges together. One side is a C, you see that? And then the other, this side, is a complete hinge. So one side you slide on, the other one you drop on, and then once everything's latched down, it's impossible to get that apart without beating it to death. So that's part of what makes it secure. So now we'll adjust it. See what it looks like now. We'll adjust it front to back, bolt the center section down, and adjust the latches for the lock. So now we're just centering it up on top of the bed, left to right, front to back. And you got to pay attention depending on your bed liner, the trim that the manufacturer puts on. You want to make sure that the weather stripping has got contact so that you don't have wind and rain blowing in there as you're driving down the road. That is if you want it sealed. This was the hard part by myself, trying to go back and forth, tapping and moving. So I appreciate you, and you have an eye for this. I think I went too far to your side now, didn't we? So here's where it just takes a little finesse. And of course we got to be cognizant of the tailgate as well, so before we get crazy and tighten everything down, we'll close the tailgate and make sure that we've got good coverage there. But I know on my truck that the plastic trim on the tailgate does line up right here, so we will be okay. If we need to push it back the slightest bit, we will. Alright. Coverage. Yeah, coverage. Yeah. Right now is not a bad spot. We could bring it back a little bit. So now we're gonna get a pro tip, huh? What's the pro tip, buddy?
Just gonna put some 3/4 inch tape along the edge here to make sure we got at least 3/4, because this is about an inch.
Okay. So put the tape at the edge so we see how much is exposed, right?
Yep.
Good pro tip. How many years you been a body man?
Almost 30.
Okay, so we know we've got at least 3/4 of an inch of coverage.
Should be good.
Looks like we're probably closer to 1.25 inches even, which is nice. I like it. You guys see what we did there, right? And you could do the same thing on the sides, right, Steve, instead of eyeballing. So you're using the tape basically as a measuring stick, where you put the tape on a static point like this outside edge. And of course, every vehicle's different, but you're gonna have something. Because it is important that you've got it on there good and straight. You do not want this thing to leak, and you wanna make sure, as we'll show you in a minute, that the latches have really good contact. This is the part that I'm most concerned with, because as you're driving, of course, you've got wind and rain being able to hit this point here. So you don't want your luggage or tools or whatever you've got up in here to get soaked. You like it? One of those things you could just keep going to town on, right? So you may want to do this differently. Before we move anything, we're gonna put these rams on in a minute, and then that's what's gonna hold these up. I don't want to lift it and adjust or misadjust after all the care we've just taken to get it straight. So I'll clamp a couple of these down, and once they're on, I'll be able to show you once we lift it up. We've got 2 anchor points on either side. Does anybody make a different type of clamp that's not aluminum? Does anybody make a steel one? I would say that these are, as you know, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the camera more than anything. These are standard for truck toppers. These are, you know, not made by Diamondback. But if you over torque these, you definitely can crack them and bend them. So be careful as you're tightening. That's enough that it ain't gonna move. Get one on the other side. And then we can throw the rams on. Yeah, it doesn't take long at all. It's not, they really made it an easy installation. I think having a dry spot with lights and an extra set of hands is a must, though. It's a snap-on. Nice. Okay, it's good and secure. So now I'll come out and we can toss these rams on so that we can lift them up. And this is standard hardware, right? These ones have Diamondback's name on them, but these are same thing you use for a tailgate window, like on a truck top, or hatchbacks, trunk lid, things like that. These are nice ones though. They've got, you don't need to get a screwdriver to pry the latch. They've got a little lever on there to lift it up. These are pretty new, aren't they? You see those on a lot of stuff now? No? It's kind of cool. So normally, with even I think the last set of these, you had to put a screwdriver in there, and this is a standard automotive item. But you got a little fulcrum in there to lift those up. Tilt her up. Connect this one here. Here. Easy peasy. I got the lid. Uh-oh. I'm holding it, bro. I've got the lid. That's handy, that little lever, instead of having to fight with a screwdriver or a little pick. You know? There we go. Cool. So now those are on, and they bear the weight. That is a perishable item. Everybody knows somebody with a hatchback or a tailgate or a trunk that doesn't stay up. So you gotta, if you're a bush fix kind of guy, you'd put a vice grip on there, which is why you'd mount them the other way, and then you can clamp a vice grip, right? So now those are on there. When you unlatch, up she goes. And there's more to talk about on that with the front too, because the front has a special latch that goes with it. So we'll pop up front and do the same thing. You go first. So that one, that latch is on there as well. That safety catch.
This goes on first.
I believe so, yes sir. So actually, let me come around to your side. I've got that one on. So over here, this is a great safety device. So on Steve's side, we've got the safety latch, which we will show you how it works. So if you come down a little bit, that gets pushed over the bottom nub, we'll call it. What would you call that? What would you call that? It's like a ball joint. Now, this thing, when we open this one, so we'll close this just a little bit, there's a safety catch. So if you forget to latch this and you start driving down the road, the wind's not going to rip the top of your truck off. So when you go to open this, to get access to the front toolbox, you would unlatch it, lift it, and reach underneath here and lift that tab so that you could get full access. Now we can get in here to put our other clamps on, and we'll adjust the latches. Easy peasy. So Steve pointed out, as I talked to you through my crotch, that this whole system is reliant on this center section and these four clamps. So don't over torque them, but do have them snug. You can easily bend them and destroy them if you over tighten. This is the third one of these we've had, and I've literally traversed 75,000 miles of America with these tops. When this is bolted down, when these are latched and you've adjusted the latches securely, it's going nowhere. So do trust it. Thank you, sir. So it looks like since my last installation of one of these a year or two ago, they have added another safety feature, which Steve is reading. We'll grab the camera and show you. It's a piece of braided, maybe 3/16 braided cable that is a tether of some sort. Okay, good and tight. Good and tight. I'm going to grab the camera and come underneath just so you can see exactly what I just did. All right, so here is our clamps, bed rail. Here's the plate. That's the center section of the top. So center, come to the other side. Might be a little easier to see this. The square tubing is part of the setup. So 2 clamps. And then here's what we just noticed. So I think that clips on under behind this, right? Okay. So there's one on both sides. Cab panel tether must be installed on both ball stud arms behind the gas spring as shown. Never drive with disconnected tethers. The cab panel may disconnect from vehicle and cause serious injury, personal injury, damage, or death. I didn't read it correctly. All right, so it goes around there, right? Mm-hmm. Cool. So we'll do the same thing here. You got that back on. Pop those off. Working with one hand, holding the cam. All right. Very nice. Put that guy back on, and away you go. They make that hardware really nice to work with. So now, just as a safety, so you can see that if for some reason you screwed up, didn't latch this failed, and you're driving ass down the highway, I don't care what manufacturer, 50, 60 mile an hour winds, this thing's gonna wanna rip off. This is just like chains on your trailer. It's a fail safe in case all else fails. This thing isn't gonna go ripping off and go through some family's windshield and kill you. Good thinking, Diamondback. All right, so now we'll adjust these latches. Pull this down a little bit without braining you. So we've got our latch here. We've got to adjust the distance that these protrude out. We got adjustments here, we've got adjustments here, so we can extend these rods to get them to lock under the bed rail here and over by Steve. So the best way that I found to do this is somebody, you also want to make sure you apply downward pressure so that when they're latched, the gasket is compressed. So I'll lay underneath there, and once we kind of get started here, I'll show you what we're doing once we get one side adjusted. So right now, we need to turn it so it's latched or where it's going to be. You know? All right. So now we've got to finagle this. I think with this one, if I remember correctly, if it's anything like my last Ford, I got to pull one of these loose. So there's a bunch of different adjustments, and I'll show you guys. Let's pop it up, and we'll move this to the other side so I can drop this below the bed rail. See what I'm saying? This has to come down farther, so we need to drop that. And then we'll adjust this a little bit. I'll do the same thing on this side.
Do you want one of these out?
Both of them. So we're going to drop it. So we've got various adjustments here. The whole goal is we're trying to get this anchor to go under the bed, and that becomes the latching mechanism. So every vehicle's different. You're going to need to adjust between those 2 bolts, and the set points here to move these so that when you turn the latch on top, it sends these rods under the bed rail. So we'll show you what that looks like. Second nature. Here. Because every truck bed's different, and then all of the plastic and bed rail parts that go on here, you might have to get creative. Nothing difficult at all. And then if you want to maintain the best level of security, like with this, we're gonna run a screw through this bracket. And it's not a big deal, I'll show you. He's got a dumb shitting grin on his face right now. He's trying not to start laughing. So for those of you that follow our channel, Steve's a former student, not from the shooting stuff though, from our dancing classes that we used to run. All right, that's all a lie. But he has become quite the bullseye shooter, haven't you?
No.
That's not true. He keeps them at 25 yards, man. He's keeping them all in the 10 ring. All right, cool.
Now
so
that looks good.
Now, if you hold that for a minute, I'm going to pop this loose. Would you bring it up just a little bit, and then we'll lower it back down, and then lower. Okay, so now these bars, we're able to adjust these suckers so that when this turns, I'm gonna turn the latch here, they can get underneath where they need to be. And we've got several adjustments that we're gonna do. We're gonna move these so that they are in an upward attitude, because if they're hanging down like this, they're gonna hit cargo, right? So we're gonna move them up. We're gonna secure all of this, and you may look at this now as a weak point. You're right, but it won't be once we're done. Stand by.
I would rather see you be a little more crazy than that, so it seals good.
Yep, I agree with you. The only challenge is if we get too awful tight, I'm gonna snug these guys back up. If we get too awful tight, it makes it hard because we've got the plastic rubbing on plastic. You know what I'm saying? As that slides underneath there. I'm gonna snug this, and then we open it up so we can tighten them properly. So just again to reiterate, we're making adjustments here. Center section. Now that I've got everything where I want it, I'm just going to snug these for a second and have Steve work the latch so that while I'm below, not yet though, Steve, we can just make sure everything's working. Let's go ahead and unlatch it. All right. And it's latched right now.
It's unlatched.
All right, so that tells me we need to adjust these. I've got them too deep. So that's the process we're going to go through. So right now, if you're unlatched, yep, I've got to loosen these a little bit because we had them too deep under the bed rail. So apply a little downward pressure, please. Loosen these a little bit. I'm sorry for the camera angles, guys. It's hard. All right, so there's unlatched. So I'm adjusting it when it's fully open or unlatched so that the bar is as far back as possible. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. All right, before he does anything, I'm going to snug those back up. So we open it a few times, it clears. Now if you lock it, all right.
Pretty difficult. It's not,
yeah, so, and that's what we got to adjust. So now it's rubbing, right?
We're not all the way latched either.
Okay, so I need to adjust it a little bit more. We need to take it back a little bit more. We're at least an inch, so we want to make sure that when we latch it, we've got good coverage. And we move our light here. That's gooder. So we've got good coverage there. We've got good coverage here. Now, because this is sharp, it's going to start eroding that. So they gave us a plastic tab, which I will show you in a second, that fits on here that allows plastic to plastic contact rather to keep that smooth. So they give you 4 of these pieces of J-channel, and basically this J-channel is going to hook up right here onto the bed rail. This slips right in. There's some double-sided tape on there to hold it, and then that is going to give you a nice point for the latching bar to rub on. You see I need to adjust it. I just slipped it up there, so I'll adjust it back so that when this is latched, this right there is rubbing on it, contacting, it's probably a better word. We just got the rear completely adjusted out, see that? So as she closes, you push down a little bit to compress the gasket. It's latched. Now when it's latched, turn of the key and this sucker's locked. And I tell you what, I sleep comfortably when I've got stuff in here knowing that there's no problemos. No problemos. Very good. So Steve is loosening those screws back up. I should not have put the screws in yet because I got to get underneath here to adjust the latch just like we did on the other side. So real quick, we'll pop the 2 screws out that I put in through the bed rail. Lift this guy out real quick, which takes 2 seconds. Steve's concerned about the hole, so I've got a couple pieces of tape here to mark that. We'll do the same thing on both sides, and then I'm going to mark the edges of the hole here, there, and there with some masking tape so that when we pull this dude out, we can line that up, because we don't want to get it all adjusted and then find out that we've made it so that these are hitting the side of the box, right? We don't want to hit the side over here. We want that to go right through the hole under the bed rail. Some of this stuff might be super self-explanatory to some of you guys that are mechanically minded. I'm assuming if you're super mechanically minded, you're probably not watching all of this though. So this is for guys that maybe don't have that aptitude. So we've got the box back out. We're gonna go through the same process of quick adjustments because now we're all tuned up on the process. Shouldn't take that long at all.
You want me to go to the other side and put pressure?
Yes, sir. So I'm got this all adjusted to where I like it. We use some tape to mark some spots so I see that we're where we want it. Snug, loose yet in the center. Now we're gonna come over to the other side here and we'll adjust that and do the exact same thing. All right, so we've got both of these temporarily adjusted and tightened. I'm going to tighten down the set screws just so we don't lose any of our carefully set dimensions. And I'm gonna have Steve, who's so kindly helping us, open the latch and we can just check and make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. So whenever you're ready, Steve.
Open it up.
Yes, sir, please. Thank you. So we can hear that we're super tight. Does it want to open? Okay, so we'll make sure that, is that completely open on the latch?
Yep.
Okay, so if you close it again. Very tight, right? Okay, so it's very tight, which means that we just need to adjust these down a little bit to make this a little bit nicer for us, because we don't want to have to fight it, and we definitely don't want to have two people every time we're using. Please. So now we see how the latching bar interacts, and we've got this J channel on there, so it gives it a nice smooth spot. You said that feels nice, right? Nice tension. Nice. I feel it. I feel it pulling down into me. Cool. Mission accomplished. We'll get the other side adjusted and we're... All right, the top is done. I like it. I like it. It's ready to hit the road. It's ready to protect my gear. And it looks really good. I mean, I gotta say, of all of the different tops that are out there, some of them are not very attractive. That is attractive to me. It's sturdy. It's an addition to the vehicle that adds value to it as far as I'm concerned. I've sold several trucks that I've put these tops on and I get more money for them because of the quality of that top. Just to recap, made in America. This is the HD series, so this one is gonna haul the most weight. You could put an ATV on here, you could put a snowmobile on here, you could put furniture, whatever you want. And of course you've got anchor points. You can order them with or without the anchor points. I like having the anchor points. Very secure. It comes with 4 keys, so you know, put them on your different key rings. You don't have to worry about losing them. Smooth as can be. And sometimes folks are worried about how much access you can have to the vehicle. Well, you got that there. Now if I move to the other side with you, bring you right over here. Pretty unfettered access to the entire vehicle. I can reach in, I can reach in. I've got the toolbox up here. We'll show you what that looks like. And I personally use this for jumper cables, tow straps, extra raincoat, that kind of stuff that I'm gonna need out on the range or out on the roadway. And even an extra socket. Steve's not gonna want me to leave with that. Thank you, Diamondback. You guys have a good day. Well, you can't think of a much better test than this. hundreds of miles through pouring rain on the open highway. This top has done awesome. I'm on a road trip down to Florida. I drove through snow and ice up by Chicago where we're from, and I'm now down in Georgia, and it has literally been some type of precipitation the entire trip. I'm at 807 miles now, and I've had to get gas, and I popped the top to dig stuff out of our cooler back there and get to our luggage last night. Everything's bone dry, just as I knew it would be. That's part of the reason that I use these tops. This is my third Diamondback cover, and I can't say enough about them. They are awesome. 70-mile-an-hour winds here on the highway, driving rain. It's doing its job, not to mention how secure it is from bad people and prying hands. I love it.